Now your Bibles are open with me, please, to Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 13. On the broadcast last Friday, I had made it into this verse and had begun expounding on these great scriptures, and we just simply ran out of time. We have a comparative statement that is made. Solomon has now come through the matter of riches and gain. He concluded that, verse number 1 down through verse number 5, by saying in verse 6, better is an handful with quietness. And then he enters into another line of argument. There is one alone, there is not a second, and that's a tragic thing. And he makes the comment, two are better than one. And then he gives the conclusion of that in four aspects where two are better than one. Now he moves into another argument from verse 13 down to verse number 16. Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king. Now, why would such a statement be made? Solomon, the same Solomon that wrote this under divine inspiration, stated in the book of Proverbs that a young man, the young, are to rise before the hoary head. There is to be honor and regard and respect from the youthful to the elder. There is to be an area and an attitude of respect and honor that is to be paid. The young man is to be in honor before the elders. He is to be in honor before the older people. He is to be in honor before the senior people in society. And yet in this statement, it seems like a direct contradiction. It is not. But it seems like a contradiction here because now a poor and wise child is said to be better than an old and foolish king. Now, what is it that would make an old king foolish? I was raised in such an atmosphere, an attitude, to where we honored elders, we honored the elderly people, we honored senior citizens. Today, so many senior citizens are mocked at and laughed at and made fun of, ignored, if you please, and refused to follow, refuse to honor them. The young people say, well, we're the new generation and we've got something to say and we want to be heard. Well, the problem with that is the young people don't have the experience the elders have, and hopefully in the providence of God they'll move along and develop and make the same mistakes that their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents made. And by the time they're the age of their grandparents and great-grandparents, they'll be very much in agreement with them. They'll agree with very much of what their grandparents believed and taught, while they would have been in disagreement with that while they were young. The reason this old king is regarded as foolish is given in verse number 13. Who will no more be admonished. He will no more be admonished. Now what happens when a man refuses the matter of admonition? Look at verse 14. For out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. Now, a man, an old man that refuses the matter of admonition will rule as a tyrant. And in a circumstance where you have a tyrant, where you have tyranny, you always have poverty. The matter of socialism. I heard a thing today and it said that about 40% of the young generation has a favorable view of socialism. Well, my recommendation to them is they can fly off the coast of Florida, and within 150 miles, I mean less, Cuba's 90 miles away, but within 150 miles, they can go to a country where there's full-blown socialism. And they can live in that. If they love socialism, let them go there. In a very short amount of time, those that have any reason to them, they that have any have the capacity and the faculty of reason, will long for the day they can come back to the freedom and liberty of the United States of America. Whenever you have an old and foolish king, he becomes a tyrant. In fact, in South Africa, there was a king, quote unquote, that was in prison for apartheid. For out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. He truly did come out of prison, and South Africa was turned toward poverty. The people there were not enriched. In fact, the people became much poorer during the time of his administration. I considered all the living which walk under the sun, with the second child that shall stand up in his stead. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirit. Now I'd like to try to deal with verse number 13 by the grace of God in the short time I have remaining. Again, we have a conclusion. These conclusions, as I pointed out a moment ago, in Ecclesiastes are identified by the word better. So we come to a conclusion or a line of thinking. Better is a poor and a wise child. There is no, in the Bible, there is no promotion of the matter of poverty as being superior, but some of the wisest people I have ever met have been poor people. There are warnings in the Bible about the rich. In James, James warns the Jewish readers that he's writing to, do not rich men oppress you. Do not rich men oppress you. And they most certainly do. The matter of being better is that it is not virtuous to be poor. In fact, I think it'd be a sin for one to be slothful and foolish and lazy and unproductive and live on the fat of the land and live on the resources that other individuals labor to produce. If a man won't work, Paul said, neither should he eat. If he is a sluggard and a slow belly and wasteful, then that man should not eat. There's certainly no advantage to that at all. But the matter of better, the child is better not because he's poor. He is better because he is wise. Better is a poor and a wise child. Now, there is no argument against the old king because he's old. I would expect that the age, the old elderliness of the king would cause him to be wise. How many times have we heard the phrase that that gentleman was a wise old sage? He was a wise old sage, and he had used his experience and the years of his life and had developed that into a matter of tremendous wisdom. And when you get around somebody like that, I think you are wise. You know, we have the saying, a word to the wise is sufficient. You are wise to listen to what a wise old sage would have to say. I think it's a matter of wisdom for you to be quiet and listen to him. Better is a poor and a wise child. The matter of being better simply points out that there are many more advantages. This is much more advantageous. Were it not better for us? The children of Israel cried out when they looked back over their shoulder at Egypt, and they said it had been better for us to have died in the land of Egypt. No, it would not have been, but they saw there an area of advantage. When something is better, it is more acceptable. It gives one a tremendous advantage. Wisdom is the principal thing, Solomon said, therefore get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. It'd be better for you to have wisdom and understanding than to have houses and lands. It'd be better for you to have wisdom and understanding than for you to buy stocks and bonds. In all of thy getting, if you're going to get something, the most important thing you can obtain is wisdom. Better is a poor and a wise child. It's better for a young fellow to be 11 or 12 or 13 years old that is versed in the wisdom of the Scriptures and in the righteousness of the Scriptures than for a man to grow to be quite old and elderly and be regarded as a fool, to be an old and a foolish king. The matter of wisdom gives a tremendous advantage. It gives an area of superiority. Wisdom will go before him, will go before the man that has it. Wisdom is a tremendous advantage to be enjoyed. If you're going to get anything or gain anything, it is better for you to get or to gain wisdom. The matter of wisdom will give you an advantage that money will not. Wisdom will give you an advantage that position in society will not. Wisdom will give you a superiority over circumstances and a superiority over others and other things. The most important thing you can have is to have wisdom. Here, a poor child that should be disadvantaged by his poverty actually has a greater advantage because of his wisdom. The wisdom will do something for the young fellow that wealth will not. So when making a comparison, the one to the other, it'd be better to be poor and wise than to be an old rich fool. It'd be better to be poverty-stricken, but to have the wisdom that comes from above, which is first peaceable, than to be an old and a foolish king. Now my time has slipped away from me on the program today. I do want, by the grace of God, whenever we come back to the radio on tomorrow, to continue, because I want to deal with this matter of the old and foolish king that would not be admonished. May God bless you until then.